going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. And in this video, we're going to be talking about something very important. That's right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Debunking Gun Myths. Yeah, I know it's been a good while since I've done one. I mean, not too many people have been making up stuff about firearms because I've been fact-checking them. That's just kind of how it works, guys. But let's get right into it. On this episode of Debunking Gun Myths, being accurate is all about controlling your breathing. Now, there are some situations where breath control might be very, very helpful. But in the majority of situations, no, that really has nothing to do with it. I mean, if you guys really want to doubt me on this, I can show you several of my targets. You guys can very well see I am a pretty accurate shooter myself. That's really never something I focus on personally. Now, I understand I am speaking from my own experience. However, what I can also say is that what does controlling your breathing really matter if you're jerking the trigger? What does controlling your breathing really matter if you're anticipating the recoil? What does controlling your breathing even matter if you are putting too much trigger finger in? What does controlling your breathing even matter if you're not properly gripping the firearm, whether it is a long gun or a handgun? It means really nothing, guys. It really means nothing. Okay? A lot of people seem to put such a large emphasis on breath control when it comes to shooting, when that's not something that is really that big of a deal. I will say, yes, it can be helpful, especially if you're doing long distance shooting, especially if you're hunting. Yes, it can be extremely helpful. However, I can also say the majority of people aren't doing extremely long distance shooting where that would be such a huge factor. The majority of people are not hunting that far out. Why? Because the majority of people just aren't hunting. This isn't to knock hunters. This is more so just to say that the majority of people aren't hunters. So in situations like that, it really doesn't matter. I hate to break it to you guys, but when it comes to what the majority of people are focusing on, which is self-defense accuracy, it really means little to nothing. A lot of people put such a large emphasis on this, and keep in mind, guys, I am a firearms instructor, and that's not the biggest deal at all. They emphasize it like if you control your breathing, you will hit the bullseye no matter what you do, and that is far from the truth, guys. I hate to break it to you, but you are going to be inaccurate if you do not practice. You are going to be inaccurate if you just jerk the trigger. You are going to be inaccurate if you are anticipating the recoil. You are going to be inaccurate if you are giving too much trigger finger. A lot of people, they don't want to accept it, but it's just the truth. Breath control means nothing if you don't have all these other disciplines down as well. Breath control really means nothing unless you're going for extremely far distance shooting, or again, unless you are hunting. And the only reason why it matters with hunting is so that way you can be more accurate and hit the right spot to drop the animal in the first round. So, I mean, a lot of people put such a big deal like under controlling your breathing when that's just not the truth. I hate to break it to you guys, that's far from the truth. And some people might be wondering, you say self-defense accuracy, and what does that mean compared to just accuracy? Well, I mean, if you're focusing on just being good at protecting yourself, I guess if you were to put it on a standard IPSC target, C-zone and better would probably be your best route. However, if you are solely going for accuracy, you want nothing but A-zones, obviously. But again, those are two entirely different levels of accuracy because those are two entirely different situations. When it comes to self-defense accuracy, or at least when you're trying to be quicker, you are going to be giving up some accuracy to it. However, if you are able to sit there, take your time, you're going to be very, very accurate, and that won't be an issue. But Breath control, though, is not something that's going to make such a huge difference that people need to emphasize it as much as I've been seeing it recently. Uh, breath control, while helpful, is not the end all be all, guys. Again, make sure you're not jerking the trigger. Again, make sure that you are not anticipating the recoil. Again, make sure that you are not putting in too much trigger finger. All of these will help you be much more accurate. All of these will make you a much better shooter than breath control. So, with that being said, I do think that about wraps it up for this video. I didn't want to keep going in circles on this. However, it is getting very tiresome to hear people argue that accuracy is pretty much only about breath control, when that is extremely far from the truth. There are so many factors that go into being accurate. And keep in mind, all I've talked about is simply just human error that can be avoided. Like, we haven't even discussed anything about the actual firearm itself. We haven't discussed trigger weight. We haven't discussed if, what kind of sights they're running. All of these which make a huge difference. So, with that being said, I do think that about wraps it up. I'm not going to keep going in circles, guys. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all and. Whether or not you agree with me about my thoughts on this, go ahead and comment your thoughts down below about what you think makes accuracy at least a more obtainable skill. Because in my opinion, keep in mind, guys, I'm not trying to, flex this again, but I am a firearms instructor. Part of my job is literally teaching people how to shoot and how to be accurate. But I mean, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me here. Having much better trigger control, making sure that you're not anticipating the recoil, are all much better than just worrying about controlling your breathing. But go ahead and comment your thoughts down below. Make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.